Hey there, I hope you all are doing well. I believe that all of the grading is caught up. So I think that we are well on our way to working on this comparison essay. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and extend the deadline to noon on Tuesday to give you all a little bit more time, since that's the impression I'm getting is that some of you need more. That said, I know that some of you have already completed it, are good, and are moving on to other things. But that said, if you feel like you need the extra day, please take the extra day. So I do want to draw your attention to the rubric for this essay. If you scroll down on the assignment sheet, you will come to the rubric, just in case some of you missed that. So some things that I wanted to address. With the outlines, there was some confusion about topic sentences. The topic sentence is the main idea of your paragraph. So since you are comparing how these articles reach their audiences, each of your topic sentences should be addressing a point about that. So in your rubric, content, of course, is worth 50%. So the things I ask, first of all, does the paper discuss worthy points? So remember, we're focusing on how these authors reach their audiences. This is not an essay about the subject of the articles, okay? Well, this is not a research paper. This is a comparative rhetorical analysis. Do you appropriately utilize evidence from the text? You have to quote, you have to use examples from this text to back your points in this essay. Make sure you have an appropriate title. The title should not be comparison essay, okay? Make your title specific to your essay. You also should not be using just the title of an article. You need to make sure that your title really relates to your essay. Make sure that you introduce the articles and authors in the introduction of the essay. There are a variety of ways you can create the introduction for this essay. You know, you want to get your reader's attention, you want to draw the reader in, but you need to make sure you introduce the articles, indicate which one is scholarly, which is popular, if that's how you want to refer to them in the essay. You can also use the author's names, you can use the articles' titles, etc., but make sure you do introduce them. Be sure you have a clear, appropriate thesis. You've gotten feedback on that from your outline. Make sure that you stay focused and use proper organization. Whether you chose block or the alternating point-by-point format does not matter. What matters is that you stick with it throughout the essay, so make sure you don't move that around. Also, if you're using alternating and you start off discussing the scholarly article first in each of your sections, continue with that. Don't switch up the organization during the paper. Be sure you treat the content thoroughly. Don't treat this like a hit and run, okay? Don't drop some points and get out. Remember to use your examples. Remember to develop your points and to lay out the connections for your reader. Yes, I can figure those connections out. But remember, the purpose here is to practice your clear writing, to get that information across to the audience. Make sure you use clear sentences with necessary meaning. That is, do not pad this paper. Make sure everything you say needs to be there. Make sure everything has a reason to be there. You'll notice that I don't really give length requirements for your research paper. I will because I have to, but I want to see you meet the requirements of the assignment, not stretch the essay. So work on paring down wordiness. That's something that is a problem for many of us. It's something that takes some practice to get used to. So make sure that you read your essay and see where you can trim some unnecessary wording and where you need to further develop and reinforce the points you're making. And the paper should be well constructed. Make sure that each idea leads logically to the next, that transitions are used as needed, etc. Grammatically speaking, make sure that you're using proper sentence structure and you're varying that sentence structure as needed. Make sure you use proper punctuation. I'm really focusing on commas, semicolons, and apostrophes right now because you've gotten some practice with that. And make sure that you're using correct usage, you're spelling your words correctly, and you are avoiding wordiness, as I mentioned already. Then style, make sure you are following MLA formatting guidelines. I've given you quite a bit of feedback on your MLA format. I'm going to start to really enforce it. So please make sure that you're formatting things correctly. Make sure you're using appropriate language for college level academic work. You want to avoid first and second person except where necessary. You want to stay formal, say children instead of kids, say television instead of TV. Don't say stuff and gonna. Make sure that you are writing at a level appropriate for college work. Make sure your in-text citations and works cited entries are correct, and make sure you follow the directions. So those are all laid out in the assignment, and you'll be getting a copy of that rubric back as you have the last two times. And then I also have returned your quoting, paraphrasing, and citing exercises. Make sure that you look at the feedback on those. Remember that a quotation cannot be alone in a sentence. It has to be somehow anchored or integrated into your text. Review guidelines for in-text citations. Typically, they're going to be the author's last name and the page number. If you don't have a page number, that happens, especially with online articles, but most of these scholarly journal articles that you're using do have page numbers. So look at the PDF and get that page number. If you've used the author's name in the sentence where you're introducing the quote, you don't need the author's name in the citation, etc. Make sure that you include your works cited page, citing both of your articles, having those there. Paraphrasing, again, it takes some practice, and I told several of you that on your feedback. So remember that when you're paraphrasing, you want to use the author's idea but use your own words and sentence structure. Read the material well, make sure you understand it, put it aside, and then try to write in your own words what the author said. Then look at what you wrote versus what the author wrote and make sure that it is quite different as far as the wording and the structure is concerned. If you try to paraphrase while you're looking at the author's work, it's going to come out kind of like you're parroting what the author wrote. And it does take practice. It does get easier, I promise. So I'm not requiring you to paraphrase on your comparison essay. Quoting will be necessary, but paraphrasing is not. When we get to the research paper, you will have to paraphrase. So make sure that you're working on that. So those are the big things. Again, I'm going to move the due date to Tuesday. You may not see that reflected in Blackboard, but it is true. I'm giving you until Tuesday. Also, make sure that you're not waiting to the last minute to start assignments. You've got everything online for you. Make sure you're starting well in advance so that you can turn things in well ahead of the deadline, so that you don't run into any submission troubles at the last minute. I hope you all have a good weekend. I'm looking forward to us moving through this and getting to the research essay. And I look forward to hearing from you. And I want to reiterate too, I do have office hours and I do have the ability to conference with you using Collaborate and Blackboard. You don't even have to be logged into Blackboard. You can even be on your phone and I can send you a link and we can meet remotely that way. So I know some of you have said that the school has disabled your webcams, microphones. If you have a smartphone, we can do it that way. You can also come into Collaborate and use the chat feature with me so I can talk to you like this and you can use chat to ask questions back and forth. Also, if any of you have interest in a topical Collaborate session, on a particular subject from the class that's giving you trouble, let me know and I'll be happy to set that up. Okay, have a good weekend and I'll see you again next week.